Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming and listening to my presentation. Like she stated, I am a doctorate of nursing in Women's Health Nurse Practitioner School here in Nebraska. And for my DNP project, I did reproductive health advocacy. So I will share my screen here and start the presentation. Okay. So why should all nurses and nurse providers care about reproductive health rights, specifically related to infertility health or stress? Um, there are three main areas. So there's a gap in care, a stress response, and then there's an action that's required or a action requiring some kind of intervention. So based on the observations that I did during my own projects and also my own personal journey with infertility, I saw both sides, one on the clinic side and one as a patient, that there is a gap in the care of stress or emotional stress when it comes to infertility treatments. Fertility nurses have seen and all their patients go through considerable stress and emotional challenges while undergoing IVF, IUI, Clomid cycles, and whether those are successful or not. The unknown is what causes this kind of stress, and that's what these care providers are seeing. Um, and you'll in further slides, I'll relate those experiences and highlight the need for what care teams should be looking to help these patients with. Um, so there's that gap in care, the stress response, and as healthcare providers, our role is to serve our communities by addressing those needs. Um, when patients in care show emotional distress, such as couples struggling through infertility, it's our responsibility to support their overall well-being and not just treat the diagnosis, but also the couple, the person. The purpose of my project was to explore stress, coping, and autonomy in women undergoing fertility treatment. My aims were one, to describe fertility patients and their partner stress and coping mechanisms, themes of importance, and experiences using two tools, the brief coping tool and the tell me tool, which I will go into further detail in the next slides. And then my other aim was to develop a future learning module to educate providers and improve care and support women's reproductive health rights and autonomy. As healthcare providers, we should always strive to improve patient care. In this population of patients, their diagnosis does not always have a simple solution, nor does it come with a guaranteed treatment. So there are unknown infertility to the point where, medication cycles, IUI, or even IVF is not guaranteed. There's not 100% guarantee. So improving care includes making sure that these patients are confident in our abilities as the provider, but also comfortable enough to be open and help them with their treatment goals. Research indicates that women with infertility diagnosis may experience stress, anxiety, and potentially due to limitations within the current healthcare system. This is unacceptable. Our purpose as providers is to help our community. Like I stated before, we serve our community, and if there is a need, that's where we should be filling that need. As an advocate for our patients, it's our job to enhance the care delivery system by applying evidence-based practice and guidelines to ensure that women receiving fertility treatments have their reproductive health rights and autonomy supported. That is our purpose as healthcare providers. Reportedly, infertility affects about 10 to 15% of reproductive age couples worldwide. And my research has shown that there are silences in fertility treatments. And what that means is there's like a gap or a lack of communication on behalf of the providers and what they may or may not be willing to tell their providers on the patient side. So there is a communication barrier where we always talk about use less medical jargon when speaking to your patient, especially in this population. They are already very stressed. They come to us searching for answers and a solution, and their solution is wanting to have a baby. So that solution isn't just, lowering a blood pressure, that's bringing life into the world. And so if they don't feel comfortable enough to open up to us or have an open dialogue, then there really is, there's just a major gap in communication and what their treatment goals would be. I to put these pictures on here to kind of show the reality of what infertility looks like. If you were to Google the term infertility, these are the pictures that you would see. And the pictures that you see are sadness, stress, the unknown, frustration. And that needs to change. Fertility patients should be able to go to their providers with a sense of hope and a sense of confidence and not just question marks. Many patients seeking fertility treatments are only offered options that focus solely on achieving a successful pregnancy, leaving a significant amount of number of patients dealing with physical, emotional, and financial burden of failed attempts. So like I stated before, there is not 100% guarantee in these solutions. And so part of our job as the provider is to leave them better than what we found them. Fertility treatments are very expensive, can cause financial burden, like it stated. And so it's our job to help them navigate that, give them resources, provide extra care if needed to help support all aspects of their infertility care, not just the end result of getting pregnant. A study has identified 3 needs that are consistently unfulfilled for couples struggling with infertility issues. First, dealing with the grief that comes with inability to conceive a child due to factors such as financial constraints, emotional stress, or age-related limitations. Second, there is a lack of guidance and support making treatment decisions. And third, there's a lack of support undergoing those treatments or understanding the purpose or what those treatments are going to do for our patients. The framework that was used for this project was Lazarus and Folkman's stress and coping theory. Basically, this is a picture of what the framework would look like. But essentially, it's a person, you appraise the situation that is at hand or in front of you, and you internal or externally feel those stressors. And then, so it's all environmental as well, like that's what's kind of causing your internal, your external response, right? So if you get support from a provider, then your stress response may lower. If you feel that you're alone and you're not able to communicate your needs and you feel closed off, then you might internalize those. If perceived coping is insufficient, like stated, stress response such as guilt or frustration emerges. Identifying these assessment tools allows providers to intervene with adaptive coping strategies. This framework can guide care for delivery patients with infertility. So this is a perfect way just to integrate this framework into your treatment plan for fertility patients. The methods used was an evidence-based quality improvement project. My tools were I made my own demographic questionnaire that was their age group, their financial income, their education level. And then participants were aged women 18 to 50 seeking fertility care, and the setting was in a fertility clinic in one of the southern states. So the tool or the demographics I used for the age related, the income and the education, I did use the social determinants of Healthy People 2023. And then as stated before, this project used a tool known as the Tell Me tool to provide care that is tailored to each individual's values and preferences. So I will show that both tools here. So here's the results for the social demographics that I had. So a majority of my participants were 25 to 34. Their education level was at least a bachelor's degree, and their income was about 100,000 or more. So this population did have a little bit higher knowledge base but yet they still had the same concerns and same problems as someone that may not have a higher education level or income. Here is the results for the Tell Me tool. The Tell Me tool is on your right side of the screen. What they did was it's a 14-question survey, and they just ranked each of these categories from non-important to very important. The results for this, the highest rating was, not a surprise. The highest they wanted was to be pregnant. But it was interesting to see that they also ranked high mental health, relationship with their partner, and provider accessibility. They also were able to leave a comment, and one of the most common that I received was patients value empathy and communication while helping with their decision making, which I thought was interesting from their providers. The next tool was the brief coping tool. This is a 28 question survey, and this is just a sample of the first 4 questions. But what they did is they just read each question, and then they would determine, I haven't been doing this at all, I've been doing this a little bit, I've been doing this a meeting amount, or I've been doing a lot of this. And the results for this. So the brief coping tool is how they use or how they adapt their emotional health, like what their coping strategies would be. The top coping strategies were planning, emotional support, active coping, instrumental support, and positive refraining, and religion. The least were behavioral disengagement, denial, and substance use. And the coping reflects balanced use of problem and emotional focus strategies. Again, I thought this was very interesting, just due to the patients. This is a very emotional diagnosis and treatment plan. It's very tailored on how they are feeling, and how they are adjusting to each treatment and the results of those treatments. And then the purpose of this project was to really truly explore the reproductive health rights and autonomy of women undergoing infertility, like I've stated, and during treatments, and to find a way to improve their care by showing how important their emotional attachment, their emotional ties to the treatment actually is. They're not coming in and just looking for a magical pill to get them pregnant. They're actually asking for help mentally and emotionally, because they're already stressed even before they walk in the door. So when we're putting them under even more stress with treatments and not a guarantee that these treatments may work, we're increasing that emotional stress. So it's ingrained in their treatment that this needs to be addressed. Reproductive rights and autonomy for infertility patients improve patient coping skills, emotional support, and involved decision-making. These responses align with the Lazarus and Folkman's theoretical framework showing how patients adapt to the challenges of infertility treatment. Clinicians should therefore focus on enhancing patients' coping skills by providing clear information, emotional support, and involving them in the decision-making. Integrating these elements into care may help reduce the distress, support the patient reproductive health autonomy, and lead better psychological treatment outcomes. So I think we tend to go into a room, discuss what we think the treatment plan should be, and they do a lot of times patients look for that because we are the experts. But in this area or this field of care, it really needs to be 50-50. These patients really need the support and really need the help and the guidance to understand what these treatments are going to do for them and how it's going to affect them emotionally and within their relationship. So in summary, fertility treatments involve significant stress. Women rely on proactive coping and emotional support. Providers should advocate for mental health autonomy and the rights in their care delivery. And then future efforts, patients are increasingly requesting a holistic approach to fertility care, and it is essential that this need is addressed. As nurses and advanced practice providers, we have a responsibility to meet this expectation by incorporating stress management and emotional support into our care plans for these patients.